Hi, my name is Avinga Kodithuwakku, and I'm a member of the NIBM Alumni Committee. Uh, I studied at NIBM from 2012 to 2016 as an undergraduate student. Um, uh, Currently, I'm working as the section head of sales and marketing at Haycart PLC, which is a subsidiary of the largest conglomerate of Sri Lanka, Haley's PLC. So before I started off as a section head at Haley's PLC, I started initially working as an intern at Fonterra branch Lanka, and I started working there when I was following the higher diploma in business management here at NIBM, because the coursework wanted me to undergo an internship period of 6 months. So that's when I initially started my career. So I will be today talking about um, how you can manage your work when you are working for a multinational company, and also I'll be touching a bit upon global trade as well, because I'm working in the export sector. Also, I will also be focusing on how NIBM and studying at NIBM did give me an edge over the competition when it comes to the job market as well. So, as I told you earlier, also I started my career as an intern at Fonterra Branch Lanka. So, when I was following the higher diploma in business management at NIBM, the coursework wanted me to undergo the internship period program of 6 months. So that's when I started applying for jobs, and I got a lot of help from NIBM Career Guidance Unit as well. Um, then, when I finally got selected to work for Fonterra Brands Lanka, which is also a multinational company, I was really happy because I always wanted to work for multinational organizations because that's what I love doing. I love to travel, and I love to have opportunities to travel overseas with my work as well. So before even I started my undergraduate period, I actually had a dream of working for multinational companies all the time. So that's why I wanted to do my internship also at a multinational company, because working for a multinational company gives you a lot of opportunities to travel overseas, um, and to associate people from different cultures. That's like a total other experience compared to working for another job actually. So that's what I always wanted to do, and that's why I applied for Fonterra Brands Lanka as well. So I was fortunate enough to get the internship period over there. And after the 6 months internship period, also I worked there as a contracted employee for another year. And during my tenure at Fonterra Brands Lanka, I was involved in branding mostly, and I actually involved myself in the rebranding process of Anchor New Delhi as well, because earlier they used to have like the usual milk packet, and then they rebranded it to a Tetra Pak. So I was involved in that rebranding project as well, which gave me a lot of experience and a lot of insight about branding and the visibility of a product. And since it was a FMCG company, it helped me a lot to cope up with the pressure, and how to manage my work efficiently and how to multitask efficiently as well. So after my tenure at Fonterra Brands Lanka, I joined NIBM as an instructor, and also I got the opportunity to work in the program office as well, where I got to have one-on-one interactions with customers. That's something that I didn't get at Fonterra Brands Lanka because I was more involved in the branding process. But when I started working here at NIBM, I got the opportunity to have one-on-one interactions with the customers and all the walk-in students, and to handle their complaints and everything as well. And then I did a couple of lectures also as a visiting lecturer here at NIBM as well. So at NIBM also, I got a different kind of an exposure, something that I didn't get from Fonterra Brands Lanka. So that was my second job. And in 2016, after I finished my studies at NIBM, I started applying for other multinational companies, because, like I said earlier, also multinational companies are the companies that I really wanted to work for. So that's when I came across a vacancy at Haycar PLC, which is a subsidiary of Haley's. So I applied for it, and I was called for an interview at Haycar PLC as well. And I had to go through a series of interviews, which I will be sharing with you now, because I think it will help you in your interviews as well. Because at Haycar PLC, the selection process is long and it was very thorough. I was called for the initial interview, and then they just did a background check on me during the first interview, of course. And it was a pressure interview, I would say, because I was not called in as soon as I went inside. I was made to wait outside for an extended period of time, and then they had always monitored me from a video camera that had been set up in that room that I was waiting. So it was definitely a pressure interview, and they wanted to see how I would react to that situation as well. But since I was taught about interviews and in pressure interviews and all the other sorts of interviews that would be thrown in my way when I was getting selected for a job, and I got all that insight from NIBM as well. So I was actually prepared, and I could actually face that pressure interview well. And then after the initial interview, they called me for a second interview as well, um, which was a couple of days after the initial interview. And there they asked me about my knowledge on activated carbon, because Haycar PLC is a global manufacturer and an exporter of coconut shell activated carbon. But back then I had no knowledge about activated carbon, and then they asked me how I will be able to work in a company of whose product that I had no idea about. So I had to come up with very tricky and very brainy and very intelligent answers during that interview as well, which I think I did well. And they called me up for a third interview, and it was actually a presentation. They wanted me to do a presentation on activated carbon, just to see how well I am prepared and how well I have studied about activated carbon. So those presentation preparing skills and also presentation skills were also embedded in me, because we did quite a lot of presentations here at NIBM during my undergraduate studies. So those kind of things really helped me when it came to getting through the final interview at Haycar PLC as well. So I was able to do the presentation well, and then I was selected to work for Haycar PLC, which was like a dream come true for me, because I always wanted to work for a multinational company. So one thing that I forgot to mention was also my CV, which was actually prepared for a two-page curriculum meter, because um, you can't actually expect your CV to go more than 2 pages, because no one will turn over a page. No one will like to turn over pages, turn 3 4 pages over just to see someone else's achievements. That's not going to happen in the modern day and age. So that CV preparation skill was also given to me by NIBM as well. So I am actually in debt to NIBM for helping me and for aiding me to get this job, and also for preparing me well enough that I would be able to face whatever the challenges that may come in the corporate world. And also to give you a brief introduction about the company that I'm working for, like I said earlier, also I work for Haycar PLC, which is a multinational organization, and which is a manufacturer and an exporter of coconut shell activated carbon. And Haycar PLC is a subsidiary of Haley's PLC, which is the largest conglomerate in Sri Lanka. Um, so Haycar PLC started in 1973 with only an annual capacity of around 700 metric tons per annum, and now we have come to a situation where we are able to produce over 50,000 metric tons of coconut shell activated carbon, and we have presence in um, almost every country around the globe. And we have marketing subsidiaries in Europe, in UK, and also in Australia and in USA, and we have manufacturing facilities in Indonesia and Thailand as well. So we have 6 manufacturing locations in 3 countries. We have 2 here in Sri Lanka, 2 in Indonesia, and another 2 in Thailand. So that's how we have covered the entire globe, and that's how we are able to supply our activated carbon throughout almost every country around the globe. So that's where we stand at the moment as a company. So, like I said, Heka PLC is an exporter of activated carbon, and then we import a little bit of raw material as well. But most of the raw material that we use in our production is prepared here in Sri Lanka for the Sri Lankan production facilities, and all the other production facilities which are there in Thailand and Indonesia. Raw material is always locally sourced. We have minimized the amount of imports that we bring into the country. And like I said, since we are an exporter, I am working in the global trade sector a lot, which I will be focusing mainly on during the delivery. So, global trade is a magnificent sector, in my opinion, because working for a multinational company and being engaged in the global sector has given me a lot of opportunities. So, what I do at Hega PLC is as the section head of sales and marketing. So, we are given with geographical markets. For example, like China, USA, UK, Japan, Taiwan, Indonesia are some of the markets that I handle. So when we are given with geographical markets like that, we have an existing customer base in those markets, and what we have to do is when we get an order from these customers, we have to follow it up until the order is delivered to their doorstep, and all the other processes that are involved in the process also have to be overlooked by us. That's our department's responsibility, and we have to communicate with the production teams, and then we have to make sure that the order gets produced in time for it to be shipped to meet the expected delivery date of the customer, and we have to make sure that the vessel booking takes place well enough, and in order to make sure that that there will be no delays in shipping as well. So from the point of receiving an order until the point of it getting delivered to the customer, it's all our responsibility, and we have to overlook the logistical aspect of it as well, like vessel booking, and then after it gets shipped also we have to look into the clearance process as well. We have to give the customer the relevant shipping documents like the bill of lading and the certificate of origin, the manufacturer certificate, and all the other related documents. We have to make sure that we prepare all the shipping documents in time for the customer to clear the goods from his or her side as well. So that's kind of what I do at Take Up PLC. And when it comes to export and import, so I think I don't have to go through like the basic theory here. So I will be focusing more on hands-on experience in the global trade. So I won't go into the definitions of exports and imports, because I'm sure most of y'all know already what an export is and what an import is. So it's very important for us to maintain the balance of trade when it comes to global market and global trade. Balance of trade is very important, and also uh, it's very important to know about the payment terms and the Incoterms. These are like the main aspects that you have to focus on when it comes to global trade. Payment terms have to be agreed upon with the customers prior to setting up the agreement. So, main payment terms of global trade are either in advance or payment on copy documents, or uh, open account, and also there's the most safest way of getting the payment method done is letter of credit. Um So in advance is a payment term where the shipper gets the payment from the buyer even before the goods are manufactured, from the shipper's side. So the most of the risk is on almost all the risk is on the buyer when it comes to in advance payment methods. Um, but also there are other payment methods like payment on copy documents, where the manufacturer or the shipper has to manufacture the goods and then ship them to the preferred destination of the buyer, and then the buyer would only make the payment after the manufacturer gives them the authority to use the shipping documents. That's payment on copy documents. So that's another method of payment when it comes to global trade. And also the safest payment method when it comes to global trade is letter of credit, where two banks from either from where two banks from the shipper side and also the buyer side will get involved in the payment process, and the banks will make sure that the payment is exchanged no matter what. So since the banks are involved and taking the responsibility of the payment methods, LC is considered to be the safest method of payment when it comes to global trade. And also you need to know about Incoterms as well. Incoterms are shipping terms as well. They're called shipping terms also. So Incoterms are some of the main Incoterms that are used commonly in global trade are CIF, FCA, FOB, DDP. Those are delivery terms also. So CIF are the terms where the shipper has to bear the responsibility until the goods get delivered to the customer's doorstep. So CIF is they stand for cost, insurance, and freight. So the shipper has to bear the cost of manufacture and the insurance and also the freight aspect of the shipment. And then there are other payment. There are other Incoterms like CFR, where the shipper has to be responsible for the cost of manufacture and only the freight. The insurance aspect of the shipment is taken care of by the buyer side. And also there are other Incoterms like FOB. FOB, when it comes to the FOB Incoterms, uh, uh, the buyer only has to be responsible for the goods until it gets delivered to the port from the buyer side. So the freight and the insurance aspect of the shipment has to be taken care of by the buyer himself. So those are like the main aspects that are there in global trade. And when it comes to global trade, it's not like it's never like the local trade, because you don't usually need the buyer. So everything is based on trust. So you need to make sure that you always keep your word and that you always deliver the goods on the promised date. So you can't have a lot of delays happening. I mean, delays sometimes are inevitable. So when it comes to situations like unprecedented situations like COVID happen, so delays can be expected in situations like that, but you can't always expect the buyer or the customer to understand from your side. So you need to make sure that you always manufacture the goods in time for them to be shipped, and you need to have a strong line of command and also a strong supply chain where you can make sure that you can always deliver the goods on the promised date to the customer. So one such example is um, so in the trade that I am involved in, the raw material that we mainly use is coconut shell charcoal. So in order for us to have coconut shell charcoal, there should be good coconut crop. But sometimes during drought periods, the coconut crop goes down. So we need to anticipate those patterns, the weather patterns and the supply patterns of charcoal, and then we need to come up with safety stocks when it comes to raw materials. So there was a period in 2017 and 2018 there, where there was a severe drought in all the manufacturing countries that we are established in, Thailand, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka. All three countries faced a severe drought, and we had to face a very serious situation when it came to charcoal supply, which is the main raw material that we use. So we had to uh, come up with alternatives in order to maintain our supply. But luckily, we had plans in place for such a situation where we had a lot of safety stock in our hands, so that we were able to maintain our supply flow without any major interference to the supply flow. So we could make ourselves established as a superior supply force when compared to the other activated carbon supply. So it was it was it was very important for us that we continued to supply during that difficult situation also, because it helped us tap into a few accounts that we were initially unable to tap into. So those markets were supplied to by another activated carbon supplier, but since we were able to maintain our manufacturing flow, and since we were able to continue the supply without any hindrance, we were able to tap into those new markets as well, because we were able to establish ourselves as a superior supply force. So those kind of planning ahead should always be there when it comes to global trade, because it's an ever-changing market. You can't actually always anticipate about the threats that will happen in this market. And also, uh, talking about the importance and all the benefits that are there in working for a multinational company and also working in the global trade, is that you get to associate a lot of people, and you get to travel overseas, and you get to associate people from other cultures. So in our company, it's a practice to send whoever the person that's in charge of the geographical market to that country, in order to get himself acquainted with their ways, and to know people, and to physically meet the customers that we are supplying to. So currently, those kind of things are not possible because of COVID, because of the global travel restrictions and all. But it used to be the case in our company as well. So and also there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to global trade. So for example, activated carbon, of course, was not a market that was actually thought of as a market here in Sri Lanka also. I mean, I think even now a lot of people don't know much about activated carbon, because now those are the kind of opportunities that lie in the global market. That's what I want to highlight. So our initial managing director, whose name is Mr. Rajan Yatavara, he is the one who actually saw the opportunity that was there in the global market, and he initially started supplying to that untapped market from Sri Lanka, because he did a thorough research on activated carbon and its applications, and he realized that there's a huge opportunity out there in the global market for us to tap into. So likewise, there's a lot of other opportunities also in the global market as well. We just have to do our research, and we just have to find out what those opportunities are, because now, of course, under the new normal conditions, under COVID-19 situation, things have changed. But I think new opportunities also must have arisen in the global market. I can give you one such example now. Also, when it comes to our company, how we used to operate is, when we would sign an agreement with a large customer overseas, they would always come down to Sri Lanka to check out our manufacturing facilities, and to see how we operate, and to see how quality manufacturing processes that we adopt. So they would always come down here to Sri Lanka for a physical checkup on our manufacturing facilities. So under new normal conditions, uh, we were unable to make that happen, because overseas travels was restricted, and they couldn't come down to Sri Lanka, and we had like 4 to 5 new customer markets that we were trying to get into agreements with. So we couldn't let them come down to Sri Lanka as per usual terms and to let them inspect our manufacturing facilities. So we had to come up with an alternative solution for that to happen. So what we thought of doing was having a virtual tour in place for them to go through and to get a similar experience at that of a physical visit. So what we did was we completely recorded our all manufacturing facilities here in Sri Lanka using the 3D technology, and then we arranged a complete virtual tour of both our manufacturing facilities, including our laboratories as well, where the customers would get the opportunity to book an appointment with us and to go through the virtual tour online, and we would always be on call with them as the virtual tour was happening. So if they have any sort of a question during the virtual tour about any sort of an equipment that we will be using in our manufacturing facilities, uh, they could ask us all the questions that they would come up with while they were on the virtual tour, and then they would get real time answers from our technical expertise personnel as well. So that's one thing that we had to innovate under the new normal conditions. So the opportunity here was that in the past, there were no virtual tours done on manufacturing facilities like this when it comes to the activated carbon industry. So we were the first one to introduce such technology to the activated carbon industry. So because of that, we were actually able to tap into a couple of new markets as well, because they were impressed by how innovative we were when it comes to working under the new normal conditions, because they knew that we were not able to make the physical inspection happen. They were really pleased with our efforts to let them inspect our facilities even under the new normal conditions using the virtual tour. So those kind of opportunities are out there. You just have to think outside the box and grab those opportunities so that you can impress your potential and your current customers as well. So but also you need to make sure that all of these other adaptations that you will be using in order to overcome the difficulties that you face are safe. Now this when it comes to the virtual tour also, we have password protected, and since it's online, you need to look into a lot of cybersecurity aspect as well, because when it comes to global trade, almost all the payments are done on wire transfers and using online methods as such. So you need to make sure that the payment is received before you make a move. For example, a lot of cyber theft is happening here, not only here in Sri Lanka, it's happening around the globe, because the times are tough and people are doing everything that they can to even if they are illegal, and cyber theft is almost untraceable as well. So if even if a cyber theft happens to you or your company, they won't necessarily be able to track it down. So you need to have contingencies in place to make sure that such things won't happen, and if things like that happen, you need to make sure that your payments are secured. So we have something called the SLESIC insurance in place here in Sri Lanka to ensure the payment. So how it happens is, when we actually sign an agreement with a customer, we need to send there's a separate entity called Sri Lanka Export Credit Insurance Corporation. So we need to send them an application, and we have to give them some details about our clients, and then um, we have to let them do a background check on our client, and then they check about the financial stability of their client, and then for each shipment that we do under that client's name, we have to make a premium payment for SLISIC, and that's how we have make sure that our payments are secured. So even if the payment doesn't come from the customer side, our payment is secured under that insurance method. So you need to have such methods in place in order to secure your side of the business, because a lot of cyber theft and a lot of unusual things are happening in the current global trade sector. And also, I need to talk to you about digital marketing, because that's also something that I do at the company that I'm working for. Digital marketing is essential when it comes to marketing yourself in the current situation and also in the modern era. So you need to have digital presence in almost all the social media platforms that are there. So you need to focus on having your presence, maintaining and establishing your presence on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all the other social media platforms like that. But the platforms that I mentioned are the commonly used ones. So you need to make sure that your presence is established in those platforms, because those are the kind of things that people would refer to in this day and age to get an idea about yourself and about the company that you're working for. And it's really important to have a good web presence as well. So you need to make sure that your website is up to date, and your social media posts and everything is error free and are up to date, and you need to make sure that you are adapting all the new technology available when it comes to having a good social media presence. And digital marketing is actually something that would get you a lot of business if you do it correctly, because people would not send you an email asking for inquiries or checking up on your product. So they would always go online and check on your web presence, and they would want some sort of a platform where they don't have to physically send an email. So that's how people are these days, because they don't want to go through the trouble to send an email. They just want to have everything from a click. So you need to make sure that you give them that opportunity and you grab that opportunity as well, because if your company or the company or now let's say for example, if your company doesn't allow an online visitor to your website to send you an inquiry, or to redirect himself to an inquiry sending platform from your website, it's not going to be good, because he will not copy and paste your email address from the website onto his email and send you an inquiry. That's not how it happens. So you need to make sure that you have all those shortcut methods available on your website and your digital other social media platforms as well, where the visitor will be able to send you an inquiry, or um, to give you a complaint, or an appraisal, or whatever, through one click. So you need to have those kind of technology inbuilt in your web presence as well. So social media is essential, like I said earlier also, and that's something that I'm engaged in as well. I'm actually in charge of all the social media platforms of HECA PLC. So you need to always make sure that your social media platforms are updated on at least on a weekly basis. So even if it's something very mundane, you need to make it sound like, you need to make it interesting, and then post it on one of your social media, or on all your social media platform across all your social media platforms, to keep the crowd engaged. Because just because you have an account on social media doesn't mean that you are active on social media. You need to keep the crowd engaged, and you need to keep the audience engaged, and you need to keep on getting more followers. So you need to always make sure that something new is being posted on your social media platforms. If you can do it on a daily basis, yes, that's great. But at least you need to make sure that it happens on a weekly basis, because that's how you will gain more followers, and that's how you will keep the existing followers engaged. Because if they don't see any posts from your page, they will just unfollow you, or your page will just go down in the Google rankings. That's how the algorithm works. So you need to understand that, and you need to make sure that you always keep on posting on your social media platforms in order to gain more followers, and in order to create more engagement on your product and on your company. um, and also when it comes to global trade, the other thing is you need to understand about the customer dynamics. So customers from different geographical locations would react differently to a given situation. So for example, if you are dealing with Japan and if you are dealing with Japanese customers, you always need to make sure that you deliver the products on the confirmed date, on the promised date. Otherwise, there's a good chance that they will not order from you again, because that's how the Japanese are. So, in order for you to get these dynamics understood, you need to be engaged, and you need to do your research on the customer base and also the country that they are from. So that's the tricky part when it comes to working in the global trade and also working for a multinational company. But you need to be able to enjoy that work as well. So you need to look into their culture, and you need to look into how they behave to given situations, and also past experiences help as well. um, so you need to know those customer dynamics when it comes to global trade, because you need to always keep in mind that not all customers would react in the same way to a given situation. So uh, understanding those customer dynamics is very important when it comes to global trade, because then you will you will be always doing what the customer expects you to do. So even if one of your orders are getting delayed, there should be a certain way that you should be communicating it to your customer. So you need to learn all these things before you actually communicate it to them, communicate the delay or whatever the problem to them. So that all helps when you are engaged in global trade, and when you are that comes with experience as well. But you need to do your research on your customers, and get to know them, and get to know how they will react. And and also there's a lot of um, competitiveness also in the global trade. But when it comes to industry that I am working in, there's not a lot of competitiveness growing around us, because we are among the top two activated carbon manufacturers and exporters in the when it comes to the global activated carbon industry. But so for us, there's no major competition. It's only us and another company who are largely supplying activated carbon to the global industries. But there are small scale manufacturers as well from India and Thailand and Philippines and Indonesia. So we need to make sure that we keep an eye on all those small scale businesses as well, because it's only a matter of time until they become big. Because when they grab the small customers that we cannot tap into, because we are large manufacturers, we cannot go into the price levels that they supply their carbon at. So we need to make sure that we keep an eye on them, and make sure that our competitiveness and our pricing strategy matches with our quality and the kind of service and the kind of product that we offer to the customer. So quality is also a key factor. So we have a separate team for research and development, and to make sure that our products remain quality, and we assure that our when it comes to packing and also the physical quality of the product and everything, we always make sure that our product remains at a higher level, and that's how we are able to maintain ourselves as one of the largest manufacturers and exporters in activated carbon. So quality is also important when it comes to being competitive in the market, and to be competitive and to make sure that you remain where you are, or whether you are able to grow further as a company when it comes to the competitive global trade. So one more thing that I would like to focus on is how to brand yourself properly, because that's also very important for you when you enter the corporate sector as a fresh graduate, or it could be as a fresh graduate, or even if you are employed at the moment, or you could be looking for a new job. When you are trying to establish yourself, and when you are trying to brand yourself, you need to focus on a lot of things. For example, now these days in the modern day and age, this the interview panel, or the management officials of the company that you are trying to apply for, if you get called for an interview, the interview panel would most probably go through your social media presence. So, like I spoke to you about how important to maintain a good social media presence when it comes to a company. Also, personally, also you need to make sure that you have a good social media presence when you are applying for a job. So you need to make sure that you share all related stuff and all important things, without sharing all the things that you come across on the social media platforms, because there's a lot of unwanted things going around in the social media platforms these days. So you need to make sure that you share only the relevant stuff to your field, and you need to maintain your integrity at all times with whatever the post that you will be sharing on social media also, because it's very likely for someone important in the interview panel to go through your social media presence while they're interviewing you for a job interview. Because it actually happened to me also when I was interviewing myself at Take Up PLC, because the MD was actually going through my LinkedIn profile while he was going through my presentation. This was during the third presentation. Like I said, the interview process was very thorough. So they were going through my LinkedIn profile as they were interviewing me. So it's very important to work on your LinkedIn presence as a professional, because that's the main professional social media platform that is there in the world um, at the moment. So you need to make sure that you have a good presence and a very uh, professional looking profile when it comes to the LinkedIn presence. So if you are still a student, it's advisable for you to work on your LinkedIn profile even as a student, because there's an option where you can have a curriculum vitae on your LinkedIn profile also. So some of you may already know about this, some of you may not know about this already. So even if this is like the first time that you're hearing about something like this, I would ask you to go to LinkedIn and maintain your curriculum vitae up to date on your LinkedIn profile, because it's very likely for the interview panel to go through your LinkedIn profile while they are interviewing you, because that will give them a better idea about what sort of a person you are, because they will not only judge you and they will not only pick you based on your physical appearance on the day of the interview. So they will obviously be looking into your social media presence as well, just to see what sort of a person you are, because it's not them being judgmental about their interviewees, but it's just how they would want to get to know the people that they're interviewing, and because they're interviewing people in order to come and work for them, so they would need to have a better understanding about the personality of those people also. So they will at present they will not only judge you or mark you based on your physical appearance on the day of the interview. So obviously they will go through your social media presence as well. in order to get to know you better. So you need to make sure that you will be projecting a good image about yourself through your social media appearance. So it's not only about LinkedIn that I'm talking about. It could be Facebook, it could be Instagram, it could be your YouTube channel or whatever. So you need to make sure that you always share uh, very professional stuff, and at least when you're applying for a job, you need to at least switch on your privacy settings accordingly, just so that when some visitor comes to your profile, they will only get to see what is related to your expertise and your area of study. You need to showcase to them, you need to portray that you are actually involved in your career growth and you are actually focused as a professional. So you need to make sure that you portray a good image about yourself through all your social media presence, because that's very very important in the modern era. And also you need to learn to multitask properly when it comes to working in the corporate sector in the modern world, because now when you're pressed with assignments, if you have like 2 3 due assignment submissions on a given day or a given week, uh, don't feel stressed about it. Don't feel too stressed about it. Just learn how to handle your stress and learn how to multitask, because it will come in handy when you start working as a professional in the corporate sector, because there will not only be one assignment for you to do at any given time when you are working as a professional in the corporate sector. You will have to look into a lot of things at the same time. So simultaneously you will have to look into a few projects at least at any given time. So you need to make sure that you prepare yourself to multitask uh, while you are a student also. So when NIBM gives you a lot of assignments to be submitted, um, like all together and without any breaks, just don't feel too stressed about it. Just learn how you can be more efficient in doing those, like yeah. So for example, it's just like this glass, I would say. So if you take this glass and if you pour just water into it first, you won't be able to put anything else into it because the water will overflow. But if you fill, for example, say you fill some sand into the glass and then you pour water into it, the sand will absorb the water. So it will have sand and water in the same glass. But earlier it was just only water. So you need to know your capacity as well. You need to work on your capacity, and you need to know that you are able to do a lot of things at the same time. So it's all about you understanding your capacity and you reaching your full potential. So don't feel too stressed about things. Just take it slow and learn how to multitask, because it's going to help you when you start working as a professional in the corporate sector. I can assure you that, because uh, when it comes to the corporate sector, uh, people will not be bothered about your feelings and how you feel, because that's not how the corporate sector works. They will not care about your feelings, and if you think that you are entitled for something, it won't happen, because in the corporate world, all can let me put it like this: all that they will be focused on is getting the job done. Like, they won't care about the trouble that you will have to go through in order to get that job done. So you need to make sure that you are able to multitask and that you are able to deliver whatever the tasks that you are assigned with. On the promised dates. So if you are unable to do that, you need to communicate it to them also and tell them that you are unable, and then you need to give them like a proper date on which that you will be able to complete your assignment also. So that's how that's how you should be performing as an employee in the corporate sector. So multitasking is a must and it's essential when it comes to surviving in this competitive corporate world. And also, you need to learn teamwork. That's also very important because when it comes to working in an organization, it's not always about you getting things done, it's about you getting things done as a team. Because if you don't perform, if you or someone else in your team doesn't perform well, that means your entire department will be not performing well. So I think all the group assignments that you are given with and all the group presentations that you are given with will help you in this regard. Because don't be a free rider when it comes to group presentations. Also, don't let other people do the work for you and then you just go out there on the presentation day dressed well, so someone else has done the part for you and then you just perform. That's not how it should happen when it comes to the corporate sector. You should always be concerned about your team members and you should be more concerned about your part in the process. So you need to make sure that you are a good team player and you communicate well and that you're a good listener. And it's very important that you make sure that you do your part well for the other people also to perform. So it's like links on a chain. There can't be no weak links in a chain for it to be strong, right? So it's like that when it comes to a department also, you need to make sure that everyone is performing well. So as when you grow, when you grow in your career and when you become a manager, you need to look into those things as well. You need to make sure that your team is performing well and you need to make sure whoever is under you is performing well. And then if they are not, you need to understand what sort of reasons are there for them to not perform well, and you need to take necessary actions in order to motivate them and to get them to work according to the plan. So it's very important to be a team player. It's not only about the academic stuff that you learn here at NIBM that will help you in your corporate lives. So you need to learn the other things also, like teamwork, leadership, stress handling, multitasking, and all the other things that are given to you through your assignments and through all the other tests that will be given to you from NIBM. So it's very important that you learn all the other things also, except for the academic stuff that are taught you at NIBM also. Because all of these things will definitely help you in the future when you start working as as an employee in the corporate sector. Um, and also have yourself a hobby. Because at NIBM also, so we when I was studying at NIBM, we started doing music as just a hobby, and we started performing at all these university functions and everything. And then why I'm telling you it's important to have a hobby is because it it gets you ahead of the work stress and whatever the other stress that will be bothering you. Because when you have a hobby, you will be engaged in something other than work and other stressful things that will be there in your life. So you can focus on something that will help you entertain yourself. So like I said earlier also, there was a set of friends who did music together with me at NIBM, and then we do have a part-time band also right now also. So we are doing commercial gigs as well. But we started it off at NIBM, and I'm very grateful for NIBM for giving me that opportunity as well. Apart from all the other opportunities that they've helped me get. So it's very important to have something like that also in your life, so that you will not be feeling stressed um, at stressful moments also. So you can engage yourself in something other than work and other stressful events. And also I would like to focus a little bit on entrepreneurship also, because it's also very important. Because all the time that I was talking about you becoming a corporate employee. But if your will is not to become a corporate employee, if your dream, if your target is to start something on your own, by all means go ahead and do that, because that's what the country wants at the moment also. We need a lot of young entrepreneurs with new ideas, with new innovative ideas to enter the business sector. And when you're an entrepreneur, you don't necessarily need to work under anybody also. So you have your own free will to make the decisions that you want, but you need to always make sure that you take calculated risks. I mean, without risk you can't earn. There's no return without taking a risk, but you need to make sure always that the risk that you are going to take is calculated, and that you can always withstand whatever the consequences that will be coming with the risk that you will be taking. So you need to always think about the consequences, and you need to always think ahead and make decisions when you are becoming an entrepreneur. And I would always encourage people to become an entrepreneur, but it was always my dream to become a CEO or an MD in a corporate company. So that's why I chose to be a corporate employee in the corporate sector. So if your will is not to become someone like that, if your will is to become a company owner or a successful entrepreneur, by all means go ahead and do that, because that's also really really good. And that will help you be successful within a very short period of time also, if you do it right, if you do it correctly, because entrepreneurship is not something that everyone is able to do. You need to have special skills to do that. So if you see yourself becoming an entrepreneur, if you do a self analysis on yourself, and if you can do a SWOT analysis of yourself, it will be really great, because then you will know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, because it's very important. I mean, we do SWOT analysis to all the other companies, but we fail to do a SWOT analysis on ourselves. If we are able to do a SWOT, if we are able to do an unbiased SWOT analysis on ourselves, I think it's really great, because then we will know what we are made of, and what we can withstand and what we cannot withstand, and what our weaknesses are, and how we can work on improving our weaknesses, and how we can turn our threats into opportunities also. So when you do a SWOT analysis on yourself, and if you see yourself becoming an entrepreneur, by all means go ahead and do that and pursue a career as an entrepreneur. Because as an example, I can give you, there was one of my batchmates who was a photographer, and he did complete the entire 4 years of study as well, but he never gave up on his passion for photography, and he became a professional photographer, and he applied everything that he learned from NIBM and everything that he learned from our course of studies onto his entrepreneurial side. And now he is a successful photographer also, and he's earning well, and he's doing actually way better than most of the other students who have actually pursued careers in the corporate sector. I'm not saying necessarily that corporate sector jobs are bad and you definitely have to become an entrepreneur. What I'm trying to focus here is that you need to understand your passion, and you need to understand what you want in life, and what sort of an career that you will be pursuing. So you need to have a target. So by the time you finish your studies, and by the time you are finishing your 4 years of studies, and you are trying to get into the job market, just know it in your head what you need to do as a person. And for you to be successful, you need to know exactly what you want in life. If you want to be an entrepreneur, yes, by all means start off a career as an entrepreneur. But if your will is to become a if your will is to hold top management position in a company, then you need to focus on getting a corporate sector job, and try to always improve yourself with all the skills that I told you today. So that's about it, and I wish you all the very best in your future. And take everything that you can get from NIBM, because it's actually a very very good institute, and it has a lot to offer other than academic studies also. So engage yourself in other extracurricular activities also. I know it will be very hard for you to study with all these new normal conditions under COVID-19 situation, but get whatever that you can get from NIBM, and respect the lecture panel, because the lecture panel is very talented and very experienced, and I have gained so much from NIBM as a student, and I'm very proud to call myself a past student of NIBM also. And they studying at NIBM has definitely given me an edge over the competition when it comes to the job market also. And you need to be proud about being a student here at NIBM, and I actually mean it, because I'm a very proud student of NIBM, and I will never hesitate to say that I'm a product of NIBM. And um, during my interviews and all the other experiences that I've had in my corporate world, um, I've there have been countless times where I felt in debt to NIBM, to all the things that it has taught me, lecturers and all the other staff members also. So there's a lot for you to gain from this institute. So I invite you to get all the things that it has to offer and use it, use it accordingly and use it intelligently. And I wish you all the very best for your future. Thank you very much.